How many times do we find ourselves searching for meaning in the middle of modern chaos, trying to understand why we follow paths that don't always seem to make sense? This pace that pulls us away from our essence leaves us feeling like we're floating, lost in choices that don't quite feel like our own. What does this mean? There's a depth within us that few explore, an unconscious full of symbols, memories, patterns that repeat from generation to generation. Carl Jung called this the collective unconscious, a hidden foundation that shapes our decisions, desires, and even our deepest fears. Let's talk about our psyche, about something that's always there but often ignored. When these patterns and archetypes come into play, our lives change direction in subtle yet certain ways. They hide within our daily decisions, in the roles we take on without realizing. This largely defines who we are, even when we try to see ourselves as free and independent. So, do we really know what's guiding our choices? It's time to understand these archetypes and what they reveal about us. Imagine a tree, strong and vibrant, growing at its own pace, connected to the soil, drawing everything it needs from the earth to sustain itself. Now, picture a tree without roots. It might look healthy on the outside, but the truth is it's doomed to wither, to lose its strength, and to fall at the first strong wind. We are like that too, when we cut off our roots. This connection to the past, to our culture, the stories we've heard, and the traditions we've inherited, is what keeps us grounded in the world. Without it, we drift, and the feeling of emptiness grows. It's easy to feel this emptiness when we let go of everything that came before us, as if none of it mattered to who we are today. In reality, it's like trying to erase part of ourselves, ignoring that these roots help us better understand our own values and the reasons behind certain choices. Carl Jung once said, "Nothing that touches the human heart is alien to us." In other words, what belongs to the human essence, what comes from our roots, from our shared history, is what brings meaning. Without it, there's a void that we can hardly fill with achievements or status. Reconnecting with our roots is not just about preserving tradition or longing for the past. It's a way to find grounding. It's asking yourself, am I truly connected to what gives me meaning? This search doesn't have to be grand. It can be found in a family story, a recipe passed down through generations, a song we heard as children. These small connections rebuild our ties to who we really are and ease that sense of emptiness that we often can't even pinpoint. Imagine your mind as an island, small and illuminated, surrounded by a vast dark ocean. This island represents what we see and know. Our conscious mind. The ocean around it is the unconscious, immense, deep, and full of surprises. What few realize is that this island only stays steady because it's supported by that vast, mysterious ocean. And no matter how much we ignore it, the things we toss into that ocean, memories, traumas, repressed desires, eventually resurface in unexpected ways. We tend to brush aside anything that bothers us, hiding emotions, memories, and even traits we'd rather not see. But what happens? Sooner or later, what lies beneath resurfaces, usually when we're least prepared. You might find yourself reacting with anger to a trivial situation or feeling a sadness you can't quite place. These are signs that something from the unconscious is trying to be heard. The question that arises is, what part of myself am I leaving in the shadows? When we suppress or ignore these feelings and traits, they create an imbalance. Balancing the conscious and the unconscious isn't about controlling everything we feel. It's about being willing to recognize and address these inner contents. By noticing these signs and allowing them space, we're able to integrate what rises from our inner ocean and expand our awareness. This balance is like making room for the ocean to flow around the island, strengthening our own perception and presence in the world. The idea that we carry something greater than our individual experience may seem abstract, but think of the myths, tales, and stories that repeat across cultures, even in places that have never met. There's a reason for this. According to Jung, we carry within us a collective unconscious, a sort of inherited collection of memories, symbols, and meanings accumulated over generations. This invisible mental heritage is what connects us to universal human experiences, things that people everywhere share, no matter where or when they lived. It's as if stories and patterns have always accompanied us, and these myths and tales aren't there just to entertain. They hold profound lessons about what it means to be human, about courage, loss, transformation. For example, the archetype of the hero, so present in legends and fairy tales, isn't just about adventure. It speaks to our own desire to face challenges and grow through them. When we encounter these patterns, a part of us resonates, feels a natural connection, because these are stories that belong to humanity as a whole. So, it's worth reflecting. Do these old tales and stories have something to do with me? Often, we can see parts of our own experience in these narratives that seem distant, but, in reality, speak directly to our emotions and challenges. Looking at the collective unconscious means realizing that we're not alone in our struggles. Just as others have faced challenges and found their way, these ancient narratives provide us with a support point, a quiet wisdom that accompanies and guides those who are open to listening, just as universal stories connect us to something greater. Archetypes, these ancestral models of behavior, also guide our daily choices. Almost invisibly, when we talk about archetypes, we're referring to roles we carry within us, like the hero, the caregiver, the sage. These are patterns common to all people, influencing everything from small actions to major decisions, like a quiet compass. Facing a difficult situation, for instance, you may find yourself in the role of the hero, making a firm decision to resolve a conflict at work, even if it means stepping out of your comfort zone. Or, when you see someone close going through a tough time, perhaps the caregiver emerges, offering support, understanding, being the shoulder they can lean on. These are responses that go beyond the rational, natural expressions of something deeper. The role of archetypes becomes even clearer when we look at everyday life. Think, for example, of a mother or father who, after a long day of work, still finds the strength to care for their children, listen to their day, give guidance, and even play with them. In this moment, the caregiver archetype takes center stage, revealing the part of them that prioritizes the well-being of others, even amidst their own fatigue. Or consider that friend everyone goes to for advice, the one who seems to always have a balanced and wise perspective, bringing a sense of calm even in the most turbulent situations. In this case, the sage archetype naturally appears, guiding the choices and words of the person embodying it, observing our actions. We might ask ourselves, when I make my choices, which archetype is at play? Recognizing this helps us understand what drives us and how our behavior patterns are built. Ultimately, noticing these archetypes is a way to see that our daily choices carry a deep symbolic meaning. It's not just about solving problems, but about finding in these roles we take on the essence of who we are and who we aspire to be. No matter how much we strive to know and improve ourselves, there's always a part of us we prefer not to face. It's that side of our personality we hide or avoid, what Jung called the shadow. These repressed aspects, often emerging in moments of anger, jealousy, or insecurity, are part of our unconscious and influence our actions without us even noticing. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. In fact, this shadow grows, ready to reveal itself in unexpected situations, especially when we're confronted by something we'd rather avoid. Facing one's shadow requires courage. Imagine making a collage with images and words that represent those sides of yourself that are hard to accept. Frustrations, fears, impulsive reactions. When we give ourselves the chance to look at these aspects without judgment, we begin to integrate them, seeing that they, too, are part of who we are. It's not an easy task, but it's liberating, like a house where every door opens to the light. Accepting these parts of ourselves means giving a place to everything that makes us who we are. And, in daily life, the shadow appears more often than we realize. Think of that time you overreacted with someone close, only to later recognize you were projecting your own frustrations, or that criticism that stings deeply, perhaps because it touches a sensitive spot within you. Asking yourself, what parts of myself do I tend to avoid, is the first step to acknowledging this shadow. By doing so, we understand that accepting our weaknesses is actually a way of strengthening ourselves. After all, only those who truly know themselves can be authentic and genuine in their actions, in times of stress or confusion. Our minds seek ways to organize themselves, and this is where symbols come in as a powerful tool for understanding and healing. Symbols are visual representations of deep concepts, and one of the most recognized is the mandala, which, in many cultures, represents wholeness, the integration of all parts that make up the self. Creating or observing a mandala is a practice that helps us see the whole, reorganize our minds, and find balance when everything seems out of place. The power of mandalas, and symbols in general, lies in their simplicity. They speak directly to the unconscious. With no need for explanation, many traditions use symbols in their healing rituals. As a visual reminder of what is important or sacred, when we allow ourselves to work with a symbol, we are, in a way, organizing our inner world. Imagine drawing a circle and filling it with colors and shapes that represent what's inside you at that moment. It's a way to express what you might not be able to put into words. So, it's worth reflecting. Is there a symbol that represents what I'm experiencing right now? Identifying a symbol that translates what we feel helps make concrete what often exists only in intuition. These representations become like anchors, bringing the mind back to the present and providing clarity when the inner world feels chaotic. In practice, these symbols are more than images. They are tools that organize, heal, and help transform. The unconscious reveals itself in many ways, and one of the most accessible is through dreams and even daydreams. These moments are like portals, where what's stored within us finds a way to surface. In a dream, we might walk through an unfamiliar house, a mysterious place where each room seems to hold something important to reveal. Or perhaps we see a road, an endless path, as if the unconscious itself were guiding us in a reflection we didn't even know we needed. These symbols that appear in sleep are disguised messages. The house may symbolize parts of ourselves, while the road might represent possibilities or changes in our life. When we pay attention to dreams, we open ourselves to listening to what the unconscious is trying to tell us. Small reflective practices, like jotting down dreams as soon as we wake up or trying to recall details during the day, help connect these pieces and better understand what's emerging from within. The question that then arises is, what are these recurring dreams or images trying to show me? By interpreting these symbols, we gain a glimpse into our own emotions and conflicts, the desires and anxieties we don't always notice while awake. Dreams and daydreams are, ultimately, the unconscious bringing to light what we often prefer to keep hidden. But that is essential for our internal understanding. In a world where digital life takes up as much space as real life, archetypes have also adapted and found a new stage: social media. There, people, often unconsciously, express different archetypes, the hero, the muse, the sage, among others, that shape how they present themselves to the world. How often do we see someone sharing achievements, challenges overcome, and taking on an inspiring stance for others? This is the modern hero archetype. Emerging in an attempt to motivate and impact, others seem to seek connection through the muse archetype, a figure that inspires through beauty, personal expression, or even eccentricity, offering an ideal to their followers. This phenomenon, however, also brings a collective shadow side, which arises when we disconnect from who we truly are in pursuit of superficial validation. The issue is that by fixating on a single archetype, whatever it may be, we set aside other genuine aspects of our personality. This can lead to a sense of emptiness or even inadequacy, as we're always trying to live up to an external expectation. So, a useful reflection is, what am I truly seeking when I share these parts of myself on social media? Identifying this helps us recognize whether we're expressing something authentic or merely giving in to the need for approval. Understanding these archetypes in modern life helps us better navigate the digital space and avoid the trap of creating an idealized version of ourselves that may not reflect who we really are. Moments of crisis and challenges have the power to transform us in ways that tranquility never could. Jung saw suffering as a passage, a kind of portal that pushes us to look deeper within and grow genuinely when we face a difficulty, whether it's a loss, an important decision, or even an inner conflict. We're challenged to question our certainties, to reassess our priorities. It's in this process that we begin moving toward individuation. That is, the development of who we truly are, free from external influences and masks we wear for the world. These moments are uncomfortable, and often our first reaction is to avoid them, to try to forget or distract the mind. But instead of fleeing, understanding these obstacles as growth opportunities allows us to consciously face what's before us. Think of a recent situation that brought up anxiety, insecurity, or a fear you thought was behind you. The presence of this discomfort isn't random. It points to something within us that still needs to be understood, integrated, or even transformed. So, it may be worth asking, why does this bother me so much? Or, what is this challenge trying to reveal about me? Looking at what causes discomfort with this perspective is a way to identify what within us still requires attention and work. After all, these obstacles aren't just tests. They're signs of aspects of ourselves that still need to be explored so we can grow with greater depth and authenticity. Amid modern life, where everything seems to happen quickly, the search for connection with the unconscious can be supported by something simple. Daily rituals. This isn't about grand ceremonies, but small practices that create a space for the mind to slow down and draw closer to what truly matters. It could be a peaceful walk in nature, listening to instrumental music, or even creating a small corner at home dedicated to silence and introspection. These practices help open a door to the unconscious, a place where answers often wait to be discovered. The idea of a ritual might seem abstract, but in practice it's simply about giving special meaning to a moment in the day. For example, when having tea or coffee in the morning, instead of looking at your phone, use this time to connect with the present moment, noticing the thoughts and feelings that arise. This pause, this small ritual, creates a space for mindfulness and presence, which helps the mind settle and calm. Cultures around the world have rituals that serve to connect people to their own inner selves and to what is sacred, because they understand that the simple act of pausing can be transformative. A good question to ask is, what small daily practices could reconnect me with myself? Identifying these moments of pause and giving them meaning helps cultivate a sacred space that, however small, allows for a deeper connection with oneself. This habit, once integrated into daily life, makes a profound difference in one's relationship with the unconscious and in understanding who we truly are, even amid the rush. In every choice, reaction, and silence, our psyche reveals itself a bit more, and the search for meaning leads us to explore hidden aspects of ourselves, our roots, our shadows, the archetypes that influence our daily lives, and even the symbols that help organize the mind amid chaos, more than finding ready-made answers. It's about looking at life with a deeper perspective and understanding that something greater is guiding who we are and how we relate to the world. By reconnecting with the unconscious, embracing the shadow, identifying the patterns that drive us, and paying attention to small rituals of self-care, we begin to move toward a more authentic life. This is the process of individuation, a continuous discovery and integration of all that we are. Rather than seeking total control or avoiding uncomfortable parts, the goal is to accept the entirety of who we are and understand that difficulties and conflicts are also part of the experience. In the end, it's up to each of us to identify what brings meaning and balance, cultivating small practices of connection with ourselves. Step by step, we uncover new layers of wisdom, and true freedom arises when we discover and accept all parts of ourselves. After all, the greatest learning lies precisely in uncovering what, until now, was still waiting to be seen.